It is now that time once again, everyone, as now a brand new trailer for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has finally been released, featuring the theme of Master and Apprentice characters here from all across the Dragon Ball series. So first up here with this new trailer, we have it focusing mainly on Piccolo and Kid Gohan from the Saiyan saga of Dragon Ball Z, and then transitioning here into the original Dragon Ball cast featuring Master Roshi, Yamcha, and of course Krillin, among other characters here of note. So with all this being said here, we're going to go through and not just check out this trailer. Will Dragon Ball Sparking Zero truly change the future of the Dragon Ball video game landscape here? And will this hotly anticipated sequel spawn a new series of games for the Tenkaichi series? And hope to, in particular, revolutionize Dragon Ball video games here for the next decade and then some to come. So right before we get into the real nitty-gritty of this video, if you enjoy content like this and want to see even more Dragon Ball related stuff from me, then be sure to let me know your thoughts down below and to also give this video a like, as well as subscribe for even more Dragon Ball goodness. With all that said and done, as we go through this trailer now and finish up focusing here on Trunks and Future Gohan from the Future Trunks timeline, and in particular the fact that they actually were able to go and have him utilize only one of his arms for combat here, for this iteration of him being a playable character. You know, it's worth noting though that in Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, Future Gohan fought with one arm, but his physical character model itself actually had, well, two arms at the time that Tenkaichi 3 released in 2007. The only other game, at least to my knowledge here, that I'm aware of that Future Gohan was only having one arm while being a playable character was in the highly disappointing Dragon Ball Z sagas. But that's a game that we don't really like to talk about here at all. But that aside, so yeah, with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero here, now officially receiving updates in the form of these short, brief character spot trailers, practically every other month now, it would seem. Is this a safe bet to assume that this is going to be the truly most epic and ultimate Dragon Ball video game in existence here? You know, it's really hard to say because of course there is no actual street date for this game releasing here at the time of this video, but for what it's worth, I figured we could go and try and discuss it here and speculate on, well, how this is going to truly turn out upon release date, and if this is going to actually live up to expectations here. I mean, let's get real, the hype for this game is quite literally over 9,000 among the fan base, and it's really hard to gauge whether this game is actually going to do well. With all these flashy special moves and animations aside, is this truly going to deliver though? Will this be the ultimate sequel here to Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and live up to the hype and expectations of the fan base here? Because let's face it, this game is going to be, you know, not just riding off the coattails of Tenkaichi 3 and Tenkaichi 2 and the original Tenkaichi. Are we even going to have the same expectations once this game drops? You know, I truly feel like, in my opinion here, this could be a very interesting title, but until we get a little bit more gameplay, we did get the official spot though for an official gameplay reveal not too long ago now, featuring Goku and Vegeta battling it out on the Wasteland stage in all of its glory here. And might I just add, that was a very, very nice trailer. But with that aside, we don't really have that much else to go off of here, including, of course, game modes and, you know, if online is going to have rollback netcode. Dragon Ball FighterZ recently got rollback netcode, which is a godsend. But for a game like this, it's really not all that common that rollback netcode will be implemented, especially upon launch day. But who knows, you know, the future of this game could change, and that's what we're, of course, focusing on here in this video and discussing and whatnot, and everything regarding it here. So, I feel like, though, that Sparking Zero has a pretty darn good chance of becoming the best Dragon Ball game that it could possibly be. And that even includes here, of course, if the game needs to be delayed, you know, perhaps 6 months or a year, even a year and a half. If this gameplay is anything to go off of here, then this might need a little bit more polish to it, you know, a little bit more shine, and a little bit more time in the oven to cook. Have a little bit more of the gameplay systems refined here and perhaps implemented a tad better, such as the beam clash system and just some of the general animation here and graphical effects. such as the transformation sequences of note and the blast damage, such as like when the characters fire off energy blasts at each other and they create a crater, or there's like a small area of smoke that happens to vanish then after a certain amount of time after the attack is performed. But otherwise, I'd say, including aura charging here and just the general movement of the game and the way that the camera is set up, I feel like otherwise everything's pretty darn good. But you know, I'm no game developer here by any stretch of the imagination. I could be wrong, and this could very well be what the final presentation is going to in fact look like upon release day. So hopefully though this game will get a little bit more polish to it and a little bit more love and care. Speaking of care, one thing I cannot help but hopefully see change is the lack of local multiplayer support. I know for me personally, that's what kept me going back to the Tenkaichi games year after year here. You know, even when the Raging Blast games came out, and I casually skipped over them because at that time, well, they didn't appeal to me at all. I thought that they looked like a copy and paste, a cheap, quick cash grab, you could say, of, well, the Budokai Tenkaichi games. So I stuck with Tenkaichi 3, Tenkaichi 2, and of course, even yes, the original Tenkaichi game. And also the Budokai games. What I'm trying to say is that I prefer quality over quantity here. And so, upon release day, hopefully, Sparking Zero here, aka Budokai Tenkaichi 4, will in fact deliver on all fronts here for fans. And yes, that includes hopefully local multiplayer gets added in if it doesn't get already patched in, hopefully on the first week or month that Sparking Zero launches, whenever that will in fact be. But for me, that's one of the big things that I really hope becomes implemented here. For me personally here, this is what kept the game alive, and also the community for that matter, for many, many years after Budokai Tenkaichi originally launched on the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo Wii. For me though, this is one of the absolute staples of the series here. Having the ability here to just basically turn the game on, go into local multiplayer mode, and battle it out for hours upon hours on end with a friend, or even a small group of friends of your choosing, in the same room, it just made the game all that more fun and accessible to players around the world. I truly though feel like this could be a missed opportunity, a big opportunity at that, for Bandai Namco here to go and seemingly take out this feature that made the games, well, what they are. You know, I feel like it's an integral part of the legacy of the series here, and having it just be either single player content or competitive online modes doesn't really do the franchise justice. I mean, if the Naruto Storm games can do local multiplayer with only sharing one actual screen, then what is this game's excuse? I feel like that's just a cop-out as a way to either cut development costs down and to have the game release faster in a shorter time frame here, and to give this game the proper amount of love and respect that it, like I said before here, rightfully deserves. And as we go into the later half of this video here, just my overall general thoughts here on Sparking Zero and the future of the Dragon Ball video game landscape, I managed to actually recreate the fights from the trailer here in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, using basically every character and on their equivalent stage here, which I thought was a very nice touch. And honestly guys, this was incredibly fun to go back and play Tenkaichi 3 again after a good while here, trying to brush up on my skills to see if I've still got what it takes for when Sparking Zero does in fact launch, so that I can jump right on into the fray here and not just relive the various battles across the Dragon Ball series, but also what I'm really excited for is to have a actual dedicated story mode for Dragon Ball Super, and of course Dragon Ball GT as well, and if we're really lucky, all the original Dragon Ball animated feature films, such as with Garlic Jr., Dr. Wheelo, Turles, Lord Slug, Broly, Android 13, etc., etc. So, for what it's worth though, I again hope that Sparking Zero gets everything it deserves here in terms of development time from Bandai Namco. Originally, when this was announced, the thought of having no actual local multiplayer was going to be a deal breaker for me, and I wasn't actually probably going to pick this game up at all, even if it happened to be on a discounted sale price. Rethinking everything here, I feel like if this game has enough polish and love going for it then, when it actually does release to the public, you know, maybe my thoughts will change and I'll actually jump right back on into things here. Either one or two things are going to be happening then. Either I'll just have to have anyone who wants to play this game take turns in a pass a controller type of setting, or have to settle for duking it out online against friends who happen to live farther away. You know, if that's what it takes to enjoy this game, well, then that's what I'm going to do. But with all that aside here from local multiplayer and whatnot, I feel like the other issue that could prevent this game from being the best it can be is, of course, the topic of DLC, aka downloadable content and whatnot. If Dragon Ball GT and any other remaining movie characters get relegated to the role of downloadable characters that have to be paid for, that might be a small problem for me. Because as we know, in the original Tenkaichi series here, during that decade, the early 2000s, not until the early 2010s, you got a game and it was completely in box, and anything that happened to be extra, you could either unlock in the game itself or use an in-game currency system without the use of real-world money. If this game requires the use of, like I said, real-world money, then it's just one of those things that shouldn't be expected on people, or even consumers for that matter, to have to shell out money after you pay for the game up front, just to have to access more of the roster, and instead having them be locked away like that behind a paywall. Because of course, a lot of these characters, they aren't going to be probably unlocked at the start of the game, or even at the end of the game story mode here. I feel though, whichever route Bandai Namco chooses to go with this, I hope that it at least makes sense in the long run here, years after Sparking Zero launches and releases to the general public. Hopefully though, this game delivers on all fronts and can make not just Dragon Ball fans happy, but fans of arena fighters and the like, all extremely satisfied here. Now moving on to the last topic I want to cover for this video. If this game does not for some reason happen to do well, and in particular just tanks completely, how could that outcome then affect the Dragon Ball video game series? You know, could that in particular happen to cause Bandai Namco to freak out? Maybe then they won't develop and publish any more Dragon Ball games for a few years. Perhaps they would take a step back and give the series a break for a while to reevaluate their strategy here with the gaming market and what does well and what does not do well. You know, it's all a matter of time. That's the biggest factor here, I feel, in regard to how this game is going to do, and no amount of flashy trailers are really going to change that until launch day. If this game holds up mechanically and is fun, then I feel like the sky is truly the limit here, and that this game could really do well, and it could really set the standard going forward for Dragon Ball games, and also anime games in particular, if I'm being honest here. We're not going to truly see the effects of this game until it launches and after everything is all said and done. It's only, like I said, a real matter of time and patiently waiting here for the eventual release date to be announced. And in my opinion, I feel like it would be a good time to release this game sometime either this fall or next fall, which would coincide quite nicely, if I might add, with the original months that the Tenkaichi games were released on back in the PS2 era. Because for a fact, every single game from that time period happened to release either in October or November, usually around the late fall, early winter times of the year. So having that line up here for Sparking Zero would absolutely be the cherry on top, you could say, the true chef's kiss, and a nice little nod to fans here of the original series, well, like myself. With all that being said, I feel like in general though, if Sparking Zero can hit all these notes, you know, beat for beat, then maybe it will turn out to be the actual greatest Dragon Ball game here for this console generation. So far, that remains to be seen. In my opinion, Dragon Ball FighterZ came absolutely incredibly close, but that's more of a competitive type of fighting game and not so much a casual arena fighter. But with Sparking Zero here, it's kind of towing the line here between what it's going to be like. I mean, I could be wrong here. You know, we'll have to just see when it comes out how this gameplay is going to really work, and we'll have all these mechanics working together to create this system here that pays a very nice homage to Tenkaichi 3 and the entire Budokai Tenkaichi series as a whole here to make this one very fantastic title. With all that, like I said, in mind, Will Sparking Zero truly change the future, though, of Dragon Ball video games? Well, like I said at the beginning of this video, ultimately, though, we're going to have to wait and see patiently upon release day here, guys. And for what it's worth, that's okay with me. And for one, I really hope we get a lot of new stages from Dragon Ball Super in particular, and a dedicated story mode retelling the events of it in full, with nothing glossed over whatsoever. And also, I really hope that a better story mode in general is implemented here. Hopefully one that combines the elements from Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and 3 together to make something that's a beautiful hybrid of sorts that pays respect to both games and the series in general. But with that aside, I also hope that the World Tournament mode comes back, because that's one mode that you cannot have a Dragon Ball game without. I mean, we did have no tournament mode featured in Dragon Ball Infinite World, which was a sort of half sequel to Budokai 3 back in the PS2 day. But with that aside, I feel like the sky is truly the limit here for Sparking Zero and what it can do in terms of achieving its full potential and changing the future for Dragon Ball games as a whole. You know, it's one thing to be either hype or disappointed by a trailer or two, but for me at least here, at this time, I couldn't be any more hyped for this game. From everything I've seen, this is going to be a true love letter to the fans of the series and the franchise as a whole, and this looks to be a quite promising title here. But hopefully upon release day, those couple doubts I have are calmly put to rest here. And this is truly the ultimate Dragon Ball game and the ultimate Tenkaichi game. Not that other rock, paper, scissors one that came out back in the day. That one doesn't really count in my opinion. That was sort of a filler title in terms of what that was all about. And just to have Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Omega Shenron as the only two playable characters from Dragon Ball GT show up, I felt like that was just a huge slap in the face, and something that I hope does not happen ever again anytime soon. I'd say though, for what it's worth, Sparking Zero truly has the best going for it here, and with the fans rallying for all sorts of different changes and characters to be revealed, I feel like as long as Bandai Namco listens here, then this will truly be the ultimate Dragon Ball game, and it will in fact change the future of the Dragon Ball landscape for the better, and we'll hopefully get the good timeline here, where Sparking Zero comes out to an ununanimous praise from fans and non-fans alike, as this sets the stage then for hopefully a proper series to continue on with here, as I would love to see a Sparking Zero 2 or 3, even if it's under a different title, as long as it retains the same elements though from the Tenkaichi series, and from, if it would be the original Sparking Zero, as like a sort of foundation for future titles then. That way I see no problems with it continuing on and paving the way for a new era for Dragon Ball games. If you enjoyed this video from me, be sure to let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And so then, be sure to stick around and stay tuned for all this and then some. Well guys, I'm Azure, and I am signing off for today. Be sure to stick around though, and I'll be sure to catch you guys all on the flip side. I'll be sure to catch you all later. See you then!
looking for what's beyond strength.
There's no limit to the strength of the Saiyans.
Break